Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our August onX Hunt 101. We'll give it just a minute or two to let everybody get signed in and get situated. So while we're waiting, just a couple of housekeeping items. Your audio and video are turned off, so no worries if you have noise in the background. We can't see or hear you. If you do have a question, we have a couple members of our customer support team in the background here answering questions. So please put them in the Q&A feature. Should be along the bottom bar of your screen, at least on most devices. That's the best place for them. Chat is great if you just want to let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, but questions do get lost in chat, so we won't really be able to answer any questions that get put there. So please use that Q&A. This class is being recorded, so we will send you an email tomorrow evening with the link to the recording. It'll be on the onX Hunt YouTube channel in our Masterclass playlist. So if there's any portion that you want to rewatch, or if you're not able to stay for the whole class, no big deal. We'll send you that email and you'll be able to rewatch the portion that you missed. We are doing a giveaway at the end of this class. We're giving away some onX Hunt t-shirts. So we'll post that giveaway link in the chat towards the end of the class so that you can get signed up there. So let's go over what we're talking about tonight. The goal for tonight is, whether you're a brand new onX Hunt user, or maybe, it's almost September, it's getting to be hunting season for a lot of people. For some folks, it's already open. Maybe you haven't used onX since last hunting season and just kind of need a refresher. Goal tonight is that you would be able to pull up the app, use the basic functions, go out this weekend or next weekend or whenever your hunting season opens up. Maybe you're doing some scouting, maybe you're setting up tree stands or trail cameras, that you'd be able to go out, utilize the features of the app, use offline maps, use waypoints, navigate safely, find your way back, do all of those basic things. So we won't be able to go into every feature of the app tonight. There's some stuff that's just beyond the scope of a 101, but we're going to cover kind of the main items within the app. And if you do have a question about something, like I said, definitely drop them in the Q&A. So we're going to go over different membership options to start off. So we've got a couple of different levels of membership within onX Hunt, and there's often some confusion about how they differ and what each one gets you. So the basic membership is a free membership. And the way you would have a basic membership would be if you had a trial and that trial expired, or if you previously had a paid membership and you canceled the renewal or something and you just went back to that basic. And when we call it a basic, that's really what it is. That you're not able to access really any of the map layers or any of the tools. You're able to see the imagery and see your location on the map, and that's about it. So to get access to the features within the onX Hunt app, you'll want to upgrade to a paid membership. And we've got a couple different levels there. We have a premium membership, and the premium comes in a 1-state version or a 2-state version. So with that, you get access to the map layers for either 1 state or 2 states. And you also get access to things like offline maps, waypoints, the tracker, weather, our different base maps, things like that. And then we've got our elite membership, which is kind of our full spectrum membership, gets you access to map layers for all 50 states plus Canada. You also get access to some elite specific tools, some of which we'll touch on tonight, like some of our different imagery options. And you also get access to our elite benefits. Now, elite benefits are kind of an unknown perk of being an elite member. There are kind of different categories within there. Some are education. We have some different educational courses in there, be they, dog training, shed hunting, elk calling, turkey hunting. We've got some deer hunting ones in there. We've tried to kind of find something for everybody in there. You get access to those courses. You also get access to things like our hunt research tools, which is a kind of Western application drawing service, draw odds and things like that. And then you get some just like straight up discounts on really good gear. from companies like First Light, Mossy Oak, Lacrosse Boots, Weatherby, Final Rise, bunch of different good stuff in there. So don't want to make this too much of a sales pitch for the elite benefits, but if you utilize those elite benefits, you can save enough money to cover the cost of your elite membership. So I think it's a pretty cool deal. All right, let's jump into the app here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my slide deck here, and I'm going to pull up the app on my tablet on an iPad here. So give me one moment to get switched over there. And while I'm switching over, if you have onX on a mobile device and you're not watching me on that device, if you're watching on a computer, pull up your phone or tablet and follow along with me. That's a great way to learn and kind of, do as I do on the map here. So here's the onX Hunt app. You can see I'm located at the onX headquarters here in Missoula, Montana. I'm just going to zoom in my map a little bit so we can get a better picture of the ground. So there I am. There's my blue dot. We're going to get started with map layers here. And map layers are really kind of the bread and butter of the onX Hunt app. If I go to the lower left-hand corner, there's a button there that says Hunt Map Layers. And now you'll notice below that is a toolbar. If you're on a phone, it might look a little bit different. I'm on an iPad here, so things are formatted slightly different. Don't let that trip you up too much. Everything still works the same. So lower left corner, I'm going to tap on Hunt Map Layers. That's going to open up my layers menu here. You see at the top, I have some recent layers. Those are just layers that I had recently turned on and off. If I expand this menu, you can see our layers are broken down into different folders or different collections. So I've got Montana and Ohio turned on for my states. Below that are our nationwide folders: current conditions, land and access, roads, trails and rec, trees, crops and soil, and wildlife layers. We'll get into those in a bit. I'm going to start with my Montana folder since I'm located in Montana. A lot of my examples are going to be Montana specific here, but these apply everywhere. So by default, private lands, government lands, and hunting districts should be turned on if you have a paid membership. If they look like this, if that switch is turned off, if you look over on the right-hand side of my map, I'm not seeing any landowner information. So that's a fairly common reason people reach out to our customer support. We sometimes hear from people saying, man, I'm not able to see my private lands. I can't see my government lands. What am I paying for? Most of the time, they have that layer turned off. So if you're ever looking at your map, this is going to be kind of tip number one tonight. If you're ever looking at your map and you're not seeing something you think you should be seeing, you're like, man, I'm not seeing private land information. I'm not seeing my hunting districts, whatever the case may be. First thing to do is check your map layers, make sure they didn't get turned off. So I just turned on the private lands layer, and you can see I've got some lines showing the private parcels here, along with some names. To learn more, this is tip number 2. If you ever want to learn more about an area of the map, about what something is, just tap on it. That's going to bring up what we call a query card. So you queried the map, the query card pops up. That's going to tell you who the owner is. In this case, it's an LLC. It could be, most of the time it'll say John Smith or whoever the owner is. Could be an LLC, could be a limited partnership, a family trust, something like that. Then we'll give you the tax address. Now, the tax address isn't necessarily the street address. It is the address where that private landowner gets their mail sent. So if you're trying to get in contact with the landowner, that's going to probably be, sometimes it's a PO box, but usually it's going to be like their house, where they receive their taxes, where they receive their mail. So you could send a letter to them. We also will show you the county if you tap on the map. So in a lot of states, there are different regulations. Your deer limit or something is by county, or you have to report what county it was taken in. When you're registering, that's where you can find that information. And then we're going to give you the acreage there as well. So let me go back into my layers. Let's say I want to find some public lands. Go back into layers, tap on Montana. Let's turn on government lands. Now you'll notice kind of on the edge of town here, as I toggle this, that's going to show those colored filters over the different types of government land. Now, each type of land has a different coloration. And if you're not sure what it is, again, tap on the map. I'm going to tap on this green portion. That's national forest land. This blue square here, blue lands are state lands. Up here, this kind of yellowish, that is City of Missoula owned property. If I zoom out, I've got a slightly different yellow shade here. That's BLM land. As you use the app more, this will become second nature. I've been using onX for probably a little over 8 years now. I've worked here a little over 7. And so when I look at the map, I just know yellow is BLM, green is Forest Service, this kind of brownish color, that's tribal land. This is the Flathead Reservation. If I go up north here, purple is National Park Service. That's Glacier National Park right there. So you get the idea. The more you use the app, the better you become, the easier it is to recognize those things. All right, so that's private land and government land. Let's talk about the hunting districts. Now, this is one that trips people up fairly often. And in Montana, they're called hunting districts. Your state might call them something different. They might be hunt areas, they might be game management units, deer permit areas, hunting zones. Everything's a little bit different. But if I tap on view options here, you see we have a bunch of different districts in Montana. I think we have like 19 different ones or 17. The number would tell me if I would back out. 17 different ones. It tells me right under the switch there. Double check that you have the correct district selected. We often hear about this in states like Montana, Wyoming, states that have different districts for different species. Typically, your deer or deer elk, as it is in Montana, is going to be selected by default. We try to do kind of whatever is the most commonly hunted game in your state. Some states just have, these are our game management units and they're for everything. So this might not be as applicable to you depending where you are. But if I zoom out a bit, you can see those green lines are our district lines. And if I switch over to antelope, for example, they start to change. Western Montana, there's not many antelope. There's not many districts. So you see, there are no green lines there. If I go to bighorn sheep, it changes. Black bear changes. So double check whether it's application season and you're applying for tags, or whether it's, it's about to be hunting season or maybe already is. Make sure you've got the correct one selected so that you're not, looking at unit 14 in Wyoming because you have an antelope tag there, but you accidentally have the elk units turned on or something like that. Last state layer I want to talk about before moving on is in Montana, it's called block management. That is our walk-in program or our public access to private lands. I think we're a little over half the states in the union right now. I believe it's 27 states have a program similar to this. Most Western states do. A lot of the Midwest does. Your state might call it something different. It might be walk-in access. It might be access yes. It might be open fields and waters. There's a bunch of different names for it. Anyway, they are going to be denoted by red dots with a black boundary, like you see here. This is a block management area, is what they're called in Montana. So this is private land, but this one in particular has a couple of different sign-in boxes, which if you look at the map, you can see we have the sign-in boxes and the parking areas listed for you, where you show up to it. This is a type 1 BMA. You sign your name, you put down your information, stick a card in the box. You keep the other half of the card. That's your permission slip to hunt that day. The landowner gets, a stipend or a payment. Every state does it a little bit differently, right? But these are fantastic opportunities, especially if you're in a state, Kansas has it's called walk-in hunter access, or WIHA. Not a lot of public land in Kansas. Great opportunity to get out and hunt on those WIHA properties. So double check those. And again, if you want to learn more information, tap on the map. It's going to give you the private land information. But then if I scroll down, it's going to tell me some of the regulations for this block management area. If I want to learn more information, I can tap on the link and it will show me the PDF. Now, this is a link to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. They're the ones who administer this program, and it will tell me what the different hunting opportunities are here, what the different rules and regulations are, what species are allowed to be hunted, what species are not allowed to be hunted. So do your diligence before you go. Make sure you know the rules and regulations for your state program and for each property. But we will link you to those rules whenever possible there. Okay. If you have a multi-state membership, whether it's premium 2-state or elite, you want to turn on an additional state, the best way to do that is just scroll down. You'll see I have Montana and Ohio listed right now. Those are the ones I have turned on. If I don't need Ohio anymore, I'm going to tap that green switch. That's going to turn it off. If I want to turn on a new state, say for example, New York, scroll down to New York, tap that switch, scroll up to the top. Now I see New York is listed there. I've got private government and wildlife management units layers turned on. I can turn on the additional ones if I want. So that's how you turn on additional states if you have an elite membership. If you're ever, another call we sometimes get is, I don't see New York listed there. Where is it? I thought I had all 50 states. You do have to turn them on one at a time. We recommend not having more than like 5 turned on at one time because it can slow you down a bit, just that amount of data being loaded. Personally, I very rarely have more than 2, maybe 3 turned on. Most of the time I just have 1 because I live in Montana. I primarily hunt in Montana. I don't need information for every other state. So I just turn them off. So I'm going to turn New York off right there. A couple of these other folders here below Montana. So current conditions, land and access, etc. These are all nationwide layers, but you get access to them even if you don't have the nationwide elite membership. If you have a premium 1-state membership, you still have access to these. So that trips people up sometimes. Right now, I'm going to go into current conditions and I'm going to talk about the active wildfire layer. This is the time of year for wildfires. I'm going to scroll over to one that I know is burning. So a lot of times we hear people, they'll email us and they'll say, I'm looking for wildfires. I know there's one near me in Colorado, but I don't see the wildfire layer listed under Colorado. It's because it's a nationwide layer. That's why it's in this current conditions folder. We don't have like a Colorado state wildfire layer. We just give everybody all the wildfire data. So speaking of active wildfires, I can toggle that on and off. And when you see a fire, if I zoom out, you'll see those flame icons kind of all over my map. There's some in Idaho, if you look there, Western Montana, we've got a few. As I zoom in, more information starts to draw on the map. And what you're seeing there is the perimeter of that fire as it currently is. You got the name. Again, tap on the map. If I scroll down to the active wildfire section, it's going to tell me the name of the fire. It's going to tell me when the source was updated and when onX last checked that source. So we pull our fire data from the managing agency, whether it's the U.S. Forest Service, whether it's a state agency, whether it's a county that's responding to it. Many times, especially in the West, it's U.S. Forest Service. And so our data is as good as theirs is. In the case of this fire, we checked today. We actually checked multiple times today. We ping that source multiple times a day, and they updated it today. So you know that this is pretty accurate information as far as percentage contained, how much acreage has burned, where that perimeter is. If this would say source updated August 22nd, then I know, all right, Forest Service hasn't updated this data in 5 days. Chances are it's a little outdated and that fire has changed. So you can use that information to kind of give you some clues as to what the fire might be doing at present moment. When a fire is put out, it will eventually migrate over to the historic wildfire layer. So I'm going to pull that up. That one is in a different folder. It's not in current conditions. That one is in trees, crops, and soil. So if I zoom out, I'm going to get south of Missoula here. I'm going to turn on historic wildfires. This is what that layer looks like. It's going to show you previous fires. I believe we go back 20 years as far as fires. So if you're looking for a fire from the 70s, we don't have that data in here. They are color coded depending on how recent they are. For example, this was a fire that burned last year. It's orange, the Sherritt Creek fire. The Lolo Peak fire here, you see, is more of a beige or a tan color. That burned in 2017. So that one's going to be a little bit more faded. Here's one in 22 is yellow. So these are helpful layers for a number of different, game animals. Elk love fresh burns. Bears do, deer do. If you hunt morel mushrooms in the West, especially, great spot to look for morels is in recent burns. So this is a layer I use a lot for scouting. I don't necessarily use it much in the field because it does obscure your map imagery a little bit. As I zoom in, it gets a little more transparent. But usually when I'm hunting, I just turn that one off. So some of these layers we talk about tonight are useful when you're sitting at home scouting, not so useful in the field. Some of them are more useful in the field. I'm going to go back to my current conditions here just for a second. One common one that we hear from people is this precipitation radar. Like right now, we've got some weather moving through Missoula. When I was working in customer support, when I first started here, we'd commonly get a call and somebody'd say, "Man, every time it rains, my map gets messed up. Why do you guys mess it up when it rains?" And it's like, does it look like a radar map? Yeah, it does. And it's this precipitation radar layer. So if earlier I gave you the tip, if you're not seeing something that you think you should check your layers, the obverse is true as well. If you're looking at something, you're like, that doesn't look right. There's a weird coloration on my map. There's a number of layers that could cause that. So double check, go through your layers and see, what might be causing that coloration. We've got air quality on here. We have drought data. We have a smoke forecast. The cell coverage one is new. This one's pretty cool. We've got a few different providers in here, so you can choose Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, see what kind of cell coverage you can expect, whether it's voice only, you can kind of see that on my map, whether it's 4G, 5G, and I've found this to be pretty accurate. Depending where you are, it's been pretty darn close. So you can turn on your different companies here. Okay, closing out of current conditions, we'll go to land and access. There's a few here that I think are important. The wilderness areas, like I have the Rattlesnake Wilderness right here centered on my map. That's going to show you the federally designated wilderness, those non-motorized areas, places like the Boundary Waters, places like the Bob Marshall Wilderness, Frank Church River No Return Wilderness. So if you turn that on, that'll give you an idea of where those are. Another one I like is this U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hunt areas, the third one down. If I zoom in, this is a a waterfowl, a refuge here, a wildlife refuge, technically. Many of them are for waterfowl. You probably have some near you. And a lot of these will allow hunting access, but they often have special regulations. So when I turn that on, I can see the different zones within this refuge. There's a waterfowl zone, there's an archery hunting zone. That's all you're allowed to hunt there, archery, whitetails, and waterfowl. Again, if I want to learn more info, tap on it. We will link you to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website. If you click on that orange link that says visit website, and that'll tell you if there's different regulations by day, by time of year. That'll give you all that information. So just like the walk-in areas, if you're going to hunt a wildlife refuge, make sure that you double check the rules and regulations because each one's a little bit different. Last kind of folder I want to talk about here are the roads, trails, and rec. So I'm going to zoom in on an area of Missoula, Mount Sentinel, that has some trails on it. That's the wrong one. There we go. So roads, trails, and rec, I'm going to turn them all off right now. If you look on the right side of my screen, Mount Sentinel is a pretty popular hiking area right on the edge of Missoula, but I'm not able to see really any of the trails right now. So I'm going to turn that layer on. Now it's telling me the location of the trails. Here is, if you've ever been to Missoula, this is the M Trail where you can hike up to the M. If I turn on trail slope, now it's going to color code my trail so that I can see how steep things are. Red being the steepest, green being the flattest. I can turn on mileage. That's going to tell me between 2 points. You see those red and white dots on my map. It'll give you the mileage between those two. Recreation sites is another one I always have turned on. Recreation sites are going to show you trailheads. It's going to show you campgrounds and camping areas. We just recently put gas stations in there, which is pretty handy to have if you're traveling around, be able to see where a nearest gas station is. We've got licensed dealers in there. We've even got some breweries in there for your post-hunt refreshment. So check those out. There's old mine sites and stuff in there. And then the last layer in here that I always have turned on is the motorized roads and trails. This is an underutilized layer. It's primarily going to show you roads and trails on public land, especially Forest Service. That's where a lot of this data comes from. So it's those purple and white roads on my map here. A lot of people don't have these turned on, and you can still see the gray outlines of the roads here. But if I turn these on, these are going to be your more maintained roads. These are going to be roads that have some sort of maintenance on them. If you've ever spent time in the West, you kind of know what I mean by the difference between a maintained and an unmaintained road. There's a lot of roads out here that were punched in for logging, say 60s, 70s. And it's a road, right? But it doesn't get any maintenance. And now it's got 20-foot tall trees growing out of it because when they were done logging, they moved out and that road hasn't been maintained. These are going to receive some sort of maintenance if there's a washout, if there's trees down across it, things like that. And if I tap on one, it's going to give me some important information, like what it's accessible by, meaning what kind of vehicle is legal to take on this road. This road here says overland, high clearance 4x4, side-by-side ATV dirt bike. Overland means like a passenger car, like a pickup truck. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to take your lowrider on it. You might need some off-roading capabilities. But a lot of these roads, I mean, I've taken a minivan down some of these, ones that I'm familiar with, of course, right? If it just says ATV and dirt bike, there might be a width restriction on it. These will tell you if there's a 50-inch width restriction. The other important thing here is the open and closed dates. This one here for passenger vehicles, overland, is open from May 16th to October 14th. In Montana, at least, we tend to open and close our roads around winter habitat and calving and fawning times. So we try to close the roads in areas where elk spend their winter, for example, and where they might be having their calves. Try to protect them during a vulnerable time of the year. We also close a lot of roads during hunting seasons to kind of prevent, just motorized access everywhere to try to kind of protect those animals a little bit too, so that they have a place to escape some hunting pressure. So don't make the mistake I did when I first moved to Montana. I was going to drive out in the spring to do some bear hunting, got to where I wanted to go, and the gate was closed. It's because I didn't check the map, and that gate doesn't open until June, and I was trying to hunt there in May. I could have still walked down it, but I wasn't able to drive my truck. Okay, there are a ton of layers within the onX Hunt system. We don't have time to go over all of them. My recommendation is to just spend some time perusing the different layers and turning them on and off. The best way to learn how to use onX is to just spend time with it. So I'm not able, like I said, not able to go into all of them. We're going to move on. But if you're curious, if you want to learn more, just spend some time in there, after the class. That's going to be hugely beneficial. Let's talk about offline maps now. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of my screen. I've got that toolbar. The bottom left icon says offline maps. I'm going to tap on it. It's going to open up my offline maps menu, and I'm going to have an orange button at the top that says new offline map. So let me first zoom my map out a bit. I'm going to just get to an area where I don't currently have a map saved. Here's a good one. Let's say this is an area I want to hunt. I'm not sure if I'll have cell service. In fact, in the wilderness area, I almost certainly don't have cell service. So I'm going to tap new offline map to be able to save this map for when I don't have cell service. Whatever is within this white box on my screen is what's going to be saved for offline use. So I'm just using one finger to move my map. I can zoom in a bit to make my map smaller if I want. Personally, I like as big a map as I can. So let me get it situated where I want. And then down, if you look in the bottom left corner of my screen, I have the option to choose map detail. Medium is selected by default. I could choose high. That's going to give me a smaller map, but more detailed imagery. We're talking about the imagery resolution when we talk about map detail. So the higher the resolution, the smaller your map. High, medium, and low, I can get a really big map. I don't use low resolution maps or low detail maps as my primary map ever. The imagery detail is, for me personally, not sufficient to use while hunting out in the field. I use them as a backup, especially for driving, because I'm still going to get my land ownership information. I'm still going to get my roads and trails. I'm still going to get my hunting districts, but the imagery details a little less than what I personally want. 90% of the time, at least in the West, I'm using a medium-sized map. If I'm elk hunting, I might be jumping around to a bunch of different spots. Pronghorn hunting, upland bird hunting, I'm certainly driving around to different spots. So I want a big area saved. I'm originally from Minnesota, so when I go home to our family deer camp every year in November, I use a high resolution map. We have our tree stand set. We're not going more than a couple miles from camp. The high detail is all I need. I don't need a bigger map because we're not going to leave that small area. So for this one, I'm going to pick the medium detail. I'm going to expand my menu, and I recommend giving your maps a name. So this one, we're in the Little Belt Mountains. I'm just going to name it Little Belts and then hit save. You can see it's going to start downloading there now. The reason I recommend naming your map, if you look at my menu here, if I pull it up, you'll see some of these are named and some of them just have that date and timestamp. I don't know what those dates mean. The 6/14/25, 6/9/25, that's meaningless to me, right? Give them a name so that you know where you have them saved. Now, as that's downloading, you're looking at my menu here. You'll see The second one down looks a little bit different. It's got a downward pointing arrow on it. I'm going to tap on that map. That's going to bring me to that map. And you'll see this one has a red box, or a red and white striped box around it. That means that that map is not currently downloaded on my device. What that means is that map is not able to be used on my device right now. For a map to be used, it has to have this green boundary around it. So if you have a green boundary around your offline map, you're good to go. That's going to work when you're offline. If you have a red and white kind of candy cane stripe, that means that that map data is not downloaded on your phone. Ways this can happen. Very commonly, if you get a new phone, your offline maps do not transfer. So if you get a new phone, your membership transfers, your waypoints transfer, but the offline maps don't. So you'd have to re-download them. To re-download the map, tap that down arrow. That's going to start downloading that map for you. Another way you could get into this scenario would be if you offload an offline map. So let's say, we'll go back to this Little Belts map I just saved. Let's say I'm going to go to the Little Belts for a weekend to hunt grouse. Maybe I'm going to go this next week when it opens in Montana, but then I'm done and I'm not going to go back there for another year. So I don't really need that offline map. Maybe I have limited space on my phone. I want to offload it to open up some space. To do that, I'm going to tap these three dots to the right of where it says Little Belts, and I'm going to hit remove from device. What that does is it saves the outline, but it removes all the downloaded data. So let's say I make a trip to the Little Belts once a year. I don't have to go back next year and reposition the map. I can just tap that downward arrow and that'll re-download it for me. So it saves some time. If you've got areas, that you're you might hunt it for a certain part of the year, but not the other, you can just offload those maps. Another thing you'll notice about some of these maps that are downloaded, some of these with the green check mark, is they say update available. So I'm going to click on this Big Snowies one. It says update available. That means that some data has changed within that map. Most commonly, it's going to be land ownership info has changed. Maybe a walk-in info has changed. Something's changed. To update that, to get that new updated information, I'm just going to tap that green check mark, and that's going to start downloading that. You might see update available almost every time you pull up the app. Does not mean you have to update your map every time you pull up the app. I tend to do this, on my personal account. We're about to kick off hunting season here in Montana. I'll update all of mine, and then I might do it once a week, maybe once a month, depending. Your map is still going to work if it says update available. That's something I've talked to customers about, and they said, man, I was driving out Saturday morning and it said update available, so I had to pull over and find some Wi-Fi to download it. Just go hunting. Your map's still going to work. It just means that something is out of date there. Usually it's not, mission critical information. Download that update when you get back home or something. Don't let it prevent you from going out hunting. Couple other offline map tips. So common questions we get: when you're offline, you're still able to see your location because your GPS receiver in your phone works on the same system as like a handheld GPS does. It doesn't use the cell tower to find your location. So you'll be able to see your location. You'll be able to mark waypoints and track yourself. Do just about everything you do while you're online, you're going to be able to do while offline. We often get questions about battery usage. My biggest tip for when you're offline is to put your phone into airplane mode. You don't do that within onX. You do that in your phone settings. That's going to turn off all cell signal to your phone. That's typically one of the biggest, if not the biggest, drain on your battery, is if your phone is searching for cell service. So even if you have kind of marginal service, I will still often put my phone into airplane mode. That's going to automatically tell the onX app, hey, we're using offline maps here. So it'll pull up those offline maps, and it's not going to try to download data over the cell network and drain your battery. Like I said, you're still able to see your location. You're still able to mark waypoints and do all that stuff. Then when you return to service, you pull your phone out of airplane mode. Everything you did as far as marking waypoints and tracking yourself, that will then sync up with your account so that it will be saved, right? So that you have it for future use. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to take a sip of water here because I've been talking a lot. I'm going to move the map back to my location. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to talk about waypoints now. Again, bottom of my screen, the center icon in my toolbar says Tools. I'm going to tap on that. We've got a bunch of different tools in here. We're going to primarily focus on waypoints tonight. Waypoints allow you to mark a spot on the map that you want to know for future reference. There's a couple different ways to mark a waypoint. The way to mark where you currently are is by tapping Mark My Location. So when I tap that, you see my blue dot there. Now I have a red X on top of it. This is what I use when I'm out in the field most of the time. So kind of my order of operations. When I'm out hunting, get all my gear on, get ready to go. I lock the truck. I'll hit Mark My Location. So that way I can find the truck again. I also recommend customizing your waypoints. Don't have any plain red X's on your map if you can help it, at least not long term. Years from now, what does this mean to me? What did I mark there? I don't know. Help your future self out by customizing your waypoints. To do that, to customize your waypoints, tap on it. I got this menu that pulls up. Bottom left corner, I'm going to tap the orange button that says Edit. Just like offline maps, I'm going to give it a name. I'm sitting here at the office, so I'm going to name it Office. Next step, change your icon. I'm going to have my recently used ones are showing at the top. If I touch this plus sign that says More, we have, I think it's like 90 different icons in here. Different species, trap, fox, hog, fishing, blood, blind, tree stand. We don't have an office one, of course. So I'm just going to use the house icon for now. Once you've got your icon chosen, then choose your color. Color coding your waypoints is another one of my kind of hot tips for tonight. Develop a system for color coding your waypoints. There's no real right or wrong way to do it. Everybody does something different. Personally, I do mine by species. I hunt just about everything Montana will allow me to hunt. Upland birds, waterfowl, deer, elk, bear, turkey, pronghorn, you name it. Hopefully someday they'll let me draw a moose, sheep, or goat tag. I color code my waypoints by species. So all of my elk waypoints are one color. All of my upland bird waypoints are another color. All of my bear waypoints are another color. So when I look at my personal map on my personal account, I know at a glance that color is bear, that color is elk, that color is turkey, etc. That's one way to do it. You don't have to do it that way. A lot of people here at the office do it by year. So they will pick a color and say, all my waypoints this year are this color. 2024 was brown. 2025 is red. 2026 is going to be purple. So that way they can see change over time. It's another way to do it. I know a lot of whitetail guys who are kind of setting up property and managing properties will have ground blinds one color, tree stands another color, rubs a color, bedding areas another color, whatever makes sense for you and the way you hunt. I'm just going to choose white for this one. That's kind of my miscellaneous, icon for stuff that doesn't quite fit my system. And then I'm just going to hit save. So now this waypoint means something to me. A couple years ago, I went through and anything that I had that wasn't customized, I just deleted because I didn't remember what it was. Might have been in the heat of the moment. I flushed some birds or I saw a buck rub or it was a spot. I saw a bunch of ducks landing. I don't know. If I didn't put that information in there 6 months later, I don't know what it means. So do your future self a favor and put that information in there when you mark a waypoint. Another way to mark a waypoint, I'm just going to move the map away. I'm just going to get out some public land here. Say you want to mark a waypoint where you're not currently at. Go back into tools. I'm going to hit add waypoint. That's just going to put a waypoint in the center of my map. That might not be where I want it to be. Maybe I want it to be at this peak. So I just tap on the map and that's going to move the waypoint. As I tap my finger, the waypoint moves. You know, maybe this is, I want to get to this spot here in park. I can zoom right in, place the waypoint there. You know, change the icon, do all that stuff. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through everything. Hit save. There it is. Another way to mark a waypoint, and what I've been doing more and more, is what's called a long press. So if you hold your finger down on the map for, it's like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. I'll do it right now. That's going to place a waypoint wherever you put your finger. That's a little bit faster than going into your tools. It's also easy to do this accidentally. We sometimes hear feedback from people like, man, this is stupid. I'm dropping waypoints all over the place and I don't want them. If it happens to you, hit the cancel button in the top left corner. It's going to remove that waypoint. So again, if I just hold my finger down, a couple seconds, it's going to place a waypoint there. I can hit save. Oops, hit the wrong button. And there we are. A common question people get asked is, hey, can I share my waypoints with people? Absolutely. So maybe this parking area here, I want to go hunting with a bunch of friends. We're all going to drive out separately. I want to have us all meet up here. I've got my waypoint of where we're going to park. Tap on it. Again, go down to the bottom of my screen, tap the button that says share. You can share with a link or share nearby. Most commonly, you're going to share with a link. That's going to generate a text message link. Now, this is a tablet that doesn't have a a SIM card, so I can't text message it, but you'll see that option there. You can email it. You can send it via WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, whatever program you want to use. Send it out to your friend or multiple friends. They will get a text message on their side that says, Jack would like to share a waypoint with you. They'll click on that link that gets sent. It'll open up onX on their side. Ask them if they want to add the waypoint to their map. If they say yes, that waypoint will then show up on their map. The nice part about that is you own that waypoint, so they can't really do anything with it. They can't edit it. They can't send it to anybody else. They can just see it. So this is helpful. Like the example I used, if you're all meeting up somewhere, hey, meet up right here. You shoot an elk and you need help packing it out, you can send a waypoint. If you have cell service, send a waypoint to somebody said, I need help packing, here's where I am. If you have a buddy coming out deer hunting and you want them to know where all the tree stands are on your property, you can send them all the different waypoints where the tree stands are and say, hey, here's where I want you to go in the morning. Here's the waypoint, etc. I think that's all I had on waypoints here. Let's talk about using the tracker. I'm going to get back to my location. I'm going to zoom in a bit. And again, going to my toolbar, bottom right tool says tracker. Tap on that, tap start. It's going to turn my blue location dot red. And if I were moving, you would see my dot moving along the map and it would be dropping a blue dashed line along the map, a breadcrumb trail as we call it. That is going to show anywhere you have traveled. So I mentioned earlier kind of my order of operations when I'm hunting a new area. I park the truck, get all my gear on, get myself ready, hit mark my location, mark that waypoint as the truck. Then I hit the tracker and I turn it on. That way I'm able to see everywhere I went. Now, number of reasons you might use a tracker. If you're going into a tree stand, You might want to track your entry and exit route for future reference. Super nice when you're navigating in the dark. Back in the day, we used to use a lot of that, orange flagging tape or those reflective tacks on trees. We still do that sometimes, but it's really nice to just have a track right now where I don't even hardly need a headlamp sometimes when I'm walking in the morning. I can just follow the track I laid down previously. Also helpful if you have a new person in camp, you can send them all the tracks so that they don't get lost. They know how to get in. I like it when I'm bird hunting to see where I've been, especially if I'm like pheasant hunting and there's a bunch of different spots in a field I want to hit. I can kind of keep track of it that way. Blood trailing, I always turn the tracker on when I'm blood trailing an animal so that you can kind of see what direction it went. And heaven forbid you have to start grid searching. It's nice to have a track there so you can see what terrain you've covered, what terrain you haven't covered. People use this for shed hunting a lot as well. They find one shed, they want to match it up. They might start doing concentric circles around that shed or start doing a grid pattern to see where they've been. Again, I've used this in the past when I've shot an elk and needed help packing. I would text message the waypoint to somebody. You can also share a track that has been saved. So once you've got this saved, you can share it just like you can a waypoint so that they knew the best route to get in to where I was, to where we had the meat stashed. Right now, I'm going to hit stop. If I had gone anywhere, this would allow me to save it. It would show my distance, my speed, my elevation gained and lost. Since I'm sitting in an office building in town, doesn't give me that option. I'm just going to hit delete. And speaking of deleting, I did see a question in there earlier about how to delete a waypoint. Tap on it. You see along the bottom of my screen here, if I scroll over, you see those buttons are scrolling. Farthest right one, red, delete. That's how you delete that waypoint. So for the person that asked that question. Let's talk about compass mode and area location. So I've done this a couple times where I'm not looking at my location on the map. Let's say I want to get back to it quickly. In the lower right-hand corner of my map, there's a location button. It looks kind of like a crosshair. If I tap on that, it's going to bring the map back to my location. If I tap on it a second time, now this puts me into what I usually call heads up mode. I've got this blue sight cone coming off of my blue dot. And as I rotate my tablet or phone, the map rotates with me. So whatever direction the phone or tablet is facing is going to be up on my map. In normal mode, north is up like we're used to with most maps. But I don't always want that, especially if I'm hiking or I'm riding along in the car and I'm navigating. It's nice to be able to just know, hey, what's ahead of us, what's on our right, what's on our left. So tap that location dot twice to get into this mode. From there, if you look in the lower right-hand corner, there's 3 black boxes. The uppermost one looks like a compass. If I tap on it, that puts me into compass mode. Now I have a compass heading along the top of my map. And I've also got, it's a little tough to see in town here, unfortunately, but I've got a white dashed line with yardage markers along the left-hand side. This is a way to kind of quickly measure how far away something is. And what I think is really powerful is you're able to mark remote waypoints. Again, bottom right-hand corner. Now I have 4 black buttons there. The top one now looks like a handheld rangefinder. If I tap on that, now I can point my phone or my tablet at a target and mark a waypoint where it is with some precision. Real world example of this. A couple years ago, I was deer hunting eastern Montana, kind of some broken terrain, breaky, coulee country, some ravines. Every region calls that something different. In eastern Montana, they're coulees, right? I spotted a mule deer buck. He was bedded down in some like juniper trees, kind of facing away from me, too far away to shoot. And the way he was laying, I didn't have an ethical shot anyways. So I was able to stalk in a little bit closer. I got to 270 yards. I was comfortable shooting at that distance, got laid down. I was going to have to wait for him to stand up. Plenty of daylight time, so I wasn't going to try to make noise or throw a rock or anything. 270 yards is a long ways to throw a rock. And so I just laid there and I ranged him, with my rangefinder multiple times, 270, 270. Pulled my phone out, pointed it at him, went into this rangefinder mode here, or compass mode, moved the icon. I'm just using my finger here, just dragging it up and down on the map to move this orange slider. Drug it to 270. Okay, that looks pretty good. Then I tapped that orange box. Drops a waypoint right where he was. Now, in the heat of the moment, I didn't bother editing it. I did that later, but I laid there for over an hour. That buck stood up. I shot him. He went over the backside of the ridge, disappeared. I felt good about the shot, but you never know, right? Until you have confirmation. So I had to climb down, get down into this creek bottom and walk up to where he was. And if you've hunted long enough, you climb down from a tree stand, you climb down from a shooting position, you start walking towards it, things look different. You kind of lose some of those landmarks. Nice part here was I had a waypoint exactly where he was. So I was able to climb up there, saw where the dirt was kicked up, walked a few steps, started seeing drops of blood, walked a little bit more, there he was. Super nice to be able to have a landmark to shoot for on my map, to know where that deer was when I took the shot. Another use case for this, a lot of people will use it when they're turkey hunting to try to pinpoint where a gobble is coming from and kind of try to use that distance measurement. Same thing with elk bugles. And this isn't just like a Western feature. I use this in Minnesota where most of our deer are shot at less than 100 yards, but it's thick. We're in northern Minnesota, north central Minnesota, pretty thick timber. Climb down from a ladder stand. There's all kinds of brush that's taller than my head. It's kind of tough to tell exactly where that deer was standing. So, last year, shot a buck. Afterwards, I kind of had that spot where he was standing, memorized. Just pulled out my rangefinder. It was like 47 yards. Did the same order of operations, placed a waypoint at 47 yards. Was able to start exactly where that buck was standing when I shot. So pretty useful tool. And again, this works when you don't have service. It works exactly the same. So I'm gonna close out of this, just hit the exit button, go back to my normal mode here. Right now, that's all I have to show you on the mobile app. I'm gonna switch over to my map on my computer here. So give me a second to get switched over. I'm going to pull up what we call the onX web map. Now the onX web map comes with your membership. It's an additional feature. It's not like an add-on. You don't have to pay extra for this. All you have to do is go to our website, which is onxmaps.com. Top right corner, there is a login button. You enter your email and password, same email and password you use on your mobile device. You'll have your map here. And everything that I did on the mobile side, as far as marking waypoints, those show up on my map here. They sync up automatically. So there's that waypoint I just marked on my tablet with compass mode. It's showing on my map. And the vice versa is true as well. So any markups, any waypoints I mark here, when I pull up the app on my phone, they're going to be reflected there as well. So I really like the web map here for scouting. E-scouting is kind of all the rage to scout out an area before you're there. I just like the big screen of this. It's helpful to me to be able to take a bigger view of the terrain versus on my phone with the small screen. There's a couple features I want to show here that I think just kind of show up a little better on the web map. So I want to talk about our different base maps. You can still do this on your mobile device. It works the same. I'm going to the lower right-hand corner. So if you follow my cursor down, click on this button. Mine says HYB2D. That's going to pull up our base maps. The satellite base map that I have selected right now is going to show you satellite imagery, like you're probably used to if you've used Google Earth or any of the other applications out there. Shows you the terrain, or shows you the vegetation. We also have a topo map, That's going to show you elevation changes. And then we also have a hybrid map. Now, the hybrid map is what I personally use 99% of the time. I get the aerial imagery. I also get those topo, those contour lines showing me the elevation change. Western hunting, you really need both, in my opinion, for most things. It's nice to see where the trees are, where these open meadows and parks might be, but it's also nice to see, hey, what's the terrain look like here? Where are the really steep cliffy areas? Where are those flatter benches and saddles? Another reason I like the hybrid map is it shows these blue lines. These are creeks and streams. These don't show on the satellite map. They're only available on the hybrid and topo maps. So if that's important information to you, turn on the hybrid or the topo. Couple words of note on these streams. You'll notice some of them have a thick blue line like this one. Some of them are a thinner dashed blue line like this one here I'm following. These thinner dashed blue lines are showing you seasonal or ephemeral streams, meaning right now it's late August. We haven't had an overly wet summer. There might not be water in this. It might only have water during spring runoff in the snowmelt or after a large rain event. These thicker streams, these thicker blue lines are going to be your more permanent streams. So if you're looking for water, whether that's for the game animal you're chasing, whether that's for your bird hunting and you want to get your dog cooled off in the early season, or whether it's water for you to be able to filter or sterilize, just note that these dashed lines, you can't necessarily count on there being water there. You're going to want to focus on these more main streams. Certainly if one's named like Rattlesnake Creek, that flows year round. So those are your three options there. A new addition to our topo map is LiDAR. So if I go down below here, it says LiDAR. And this is an elite only feature. This is one of the benefits to having that elite membership, is this additional LiDAR information. I just love messing around with this. Look at the difference between topo and LiDAR. So this is going to show you much more detailed information. It's going to show you, there's some areas where you can even see like individual boulders. There are areas where you're able to see roads and trails much more effectively, stream beds. It just shows you this creek bottom here looks pretty steep once you get to the creek. You don't necessarily see that as well on the topo map. So check that out if you've got an elite membership. Let me go back to satellite, and I'm going to move out of Montana and I'm going to move east. We've got a couple different imagery options for you as well, for you elite members. Let me find a spot here in Wisconsin. Just zoom in. So this is our standard aerial imagery. Looks pretty good. But let's say I want to see a leaf off image, an image that was taken in the fall or the winter. I can turn that on in my base map option here. Now, again, this is an elite only feature, and we don't have this in every state. I believe we're at 15 states right now, all of them east of the Rockies. If you don't have leaf off imagery in your area, you will know. We will put a filter over the map that tells you it's not available. But for the states that we do have this in, super cool to be able to see through that tree canopy, be able to maybe see, there's some places where you can see roads better. You can see deer trails a little bit better. Looks like there's one lone big pine or spruce tree here. You can easily see, these are pines here. Not as easy to see when it's the regular imagery. So that's another option for you. My home state of Minnesota, we don't have that available. So if we don't have it in your state, this is what it will look like. And we're not picking on you. We're not saying, we don't care about the people in your state for leaf off imagery. Typically, it's just we haven't found a good source for that imagery yet. We want to have it in as many states as possible. We're continually working to add states For a case like Iowa here, we have it in some areas, but not others. So we're going to get what we can and provide it to those people. And we're going to keep working on trying to increase our coverage area for this leaf off imagery. I'm going to turn this off. And the next imagery option I want to show you, I'm just going to go to Yellowstone or the Wind Rivers, the Teton Wilderness here. I guess this isn't the Wind Rivers, but I want to talk about recent imagery now. So recent imagery, again, is an elite only feature. And this is satellite imagery that's taken on a 2-week cadence. It is lower resolution than our regular imagery. If I toggle it on and off, you can see a bit of a difference there. This is not meant to replace our regular imagery. It's meant to be an additional tool in the toolkit. What's cool about this is we're going to give you the dates along the bottom here. So it's going to tell you this was taken between August 4th and August 18th. I can go back in time if I want by 2-week increments and start to see what the snow cover looks like. And see it hangs on, at least this year it hung on until early June, late May this year. If you want to easily check on a date, maybe I have a tag for this area that's good for late October, early November. I might want to say, all right, what did last year look like? Oh, starting to get some snow last couple days of October or early November. Then a lot of snow. Of course, every year is different, but it does give you a good idea of what that area might look like this year. Snow is a very common, thing to check. I use this a lot in the spring when I'm spring bear hunting to see what the snow levels are like. This fall, I'm hoping to hunt either South Dakota or North Dakota for pheasants, maybe both if I'm lucky, if I can work it out. I'm going to use it to check the crops. If you're a pheasant hunter, common saying is the 3 best days to hunt pheasants are opening day, the day the crops come out, and the day of the first snowfall. Especially in areas I've hunted in South Dakota in the past, there's a lot of corn being planted, corn, sunflower seeds. Hard to hunt pheasants when the corn is still standing because they can escape into there and you're just not going to hunt them effectively there. I'm able to take a look at this and maybe look and see, looks like in that last 2-week segment, they were starting to harvest. I'm seeing some of the cornfields have been harvested. Tells me when I'm going to be there, pretty good chance more of them are harvested or all of them are harvested. Waterfowl hunters use this to check water levels quite frequently too. See what the river level's doing or what the sloughs are looking like in a certain area. Is it going to tell you exactly? No. It's a 2-week segment, right? Again, it's just meant to be another tool in the toolkit to help give you some more information. Last thing I want to touch on in here is our 3D map. I'm going to turn off the recent imagery. I'm going to click on 3D. Now, as I zoom in, this is going to let me look on a 3D level at what the terrain looks like. I can move this up and down. I can pan it around. Right now, I'm using 2 fingers. I have a trackpad on my computer is how I'm doing this. Just holding 2 fingers down and rotating them, moving them around. I can zoom in closer if I'd like. It's often cool to look at the LiDAR in this in 3D. Really makes that LiDAR pop. So you can use all your different imagery options here. This is available on mobile as well. It's not currently available for offline use. We're working on it. So just take note of that. When you're offline, you're not going to be able to access 3D, at least right now. In the future, hopefully we'll have that for you. But again, something I use for scouting, something I use spring bear hunting to try to look for those south-facing slopes, elk hunting to try to look for north-facing, try to identify benchy areas where elk might hang out, try to easily find those saddles, places like that. Okay. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to move my map back to Montana, turn on hybrid, hit my location button, bring me back to Missoula. I want to talk about the search function real quickly. So a question we often get is, I have a set of coordinates, maybe from another mapping program, maybe from a friend, maybe from an old GPS, and I want to be able to place a waypoint where those coordinates are. Here's how you do that. I'm going to go into the search bar, upper left corner. If you're on a mobile device, you're going to look for a magnifying glass icon in the upper right-hand corner. So mobile, it's upper right. On the web map here, it's left. Cancel out of those. So if I have a set of coordinates, you could copy and paste them, or you could type them in manually. We recommend using the decimal format. That's what works best. So you're going to type your first coordinate in. I'm just going to go 47.0000. You can go out to, I believe it's 5 decimals. The more decimals you give it, the more accurate it's going to be. You don't have to put a comma between them, but your second coordinate has to have the negative sign in front of it. You're in the Western Hemisphere, at least I believe most of you are. You need to have the negative. If you don't put the negative in, it's going to put you in the Eastern Hemisphere. So I'm just going to go 101. This should put us somewhere in the West. Here's my result. Click on it. I've used this one before. Let me back up. That's embarrassing. I need to pick up a different number. I'm going to go 102 West. There we go. So this is what you'll see. I have this icon here giving me those exact coordinates. That's what I typed in. If I want to mark that spot along the bottom of my map here, I'm going to hit add waypoint. Now I have a waypoint on those exact coordinates. So that's how you search for GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude, and mark a waypoint if you would like. Where'd we end up there? North Dakota. You can see I've used North Dakota for my examples quite a bit. Let's say I want to search for a person, a landowner. I'm just going to type in John Smith. I get a lot of results for John Smith. Let me zoom in a bit. I'm going to hit it one more time. Actually, Jack screwed up here. I had location selected. If you're searching for a name, you need to select private land. So let's do that one more time. John Smith, I have private land selected. There we go. Now it's giving me a bunch of different John Smiths in Missoula County. I can see them by these red icons here. I can click on them. Maybe this is the one I want. Great. Let's say that's not the John Smith I'm looking for. Top left corner, I'm going to click the back arrow. I'm going to click the next one. Now you'll notice these are all showing in Western Montana. That's because the map prioritizes search results based on where the map is located. So give the search function some help. If you're looking for a John Smith in Alabama, move the map to Alabama. If you know that John Smith is in northeastern Alabama, zoom in on northeastern Alabama. That's going to give you search results close to that area. If you're looking in Southern California, go to Southern California. If you're looking in Maine, go to Maine. You guys get the idea. So it's going to prioritize results that are closest to you. So that's how you search for a private landowner. If I want to search for a location, whether it's a town, a county, a lake. Let's say I grew up in Stearns County, Minnesota. Click on it. It's going to bring me to Stearns County, Minnesota. If I want to look for Glacier National Park, type it in, wait for the search. Glacier National Park. Brings me to the center of the park there. Like I said, you can search for mountain peaks, you can search for lakes, towns, counties. Just want to have location selected there. Okay. That's all I have for the demonstration here. I do want to talk about a couple things before we get to the Q&A. I am going to drop the giveaway link in the chat here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to turn the chat off right now. just so this giveaway link doesn't get lost. So if you are interested in entering the giveaway, giving away some t-shirts, pull up the chat right now. The link is in there. We do sometimes get some feedback from folks that the link doesn't work. Some phones have goofy security settings on them. You might need to just copy and paste it or write it down and enter manually. But that giveaway link will be good until midnight tonight. If you don't have a current onX membership, we have a discount for you. The promo code app101 will save you 30% off your first year. You do have to go to our website to use that. So you can't use it on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. They don't take promo codes. You will pay full price if you pay through the App Store or the Play Store. Go to our website, use promo code app101, saves you 30% off that first year. If you do have trouble with that, send us an email. Should have mentioned this at the start of the class. Our customer support team's phenomenal. We have phones you can call. We have email. If you send us an email to help@onxmaps.com, you can expect an answer the next day. If you email us tonight, you should receive an answer tomorrow. Again, that's help@onxmaps.com. So if you have trouble using this promo code, shoot us an email. We'll take care of you. Our website is another great source. If you have questions, we have a bunch of tutorials on there. Our YouTube channel as well. I mentioned customer support. Shoot us an email, give us a call. We're more than happy to help. And then check out future classes. We've got some fun ones coming up this fall. We're diving back in. We haven't done a lot of upland bird ones in a few years. We're going to talk about scouting for ruffed grouse and scouting for pheasants. We're going to join up with our friends from Tethered to do a class for you saddle hunters. And of course, we do an onX 101 every month. So if you want to just watch this class again, or if you have a buddy that needs to learn more about how to use onX, send them the link and have them sign up for next month's 101. I did this a little bit out of order. Here's the shirt we're giving away tonight. We're giving away 10 of those bad boys. There's the link again if you need it. It is in the chat as well. Like I said, if you're having trouble getting entered, write it down, type it in after the class or something like that. I'll send an email to all of the winners tomorrow morning and get your shirt sent out. So please don't email customer support asking if you won. They don't know. They're busy answering questions, helping people with their app. So I'll send an email to the winners. If you get an email, you won. If you don't get an email from me, I'm sorry you didn't. Okay. Question and answer time. I'm going to stop sharing and pull up and see. I think our customer support folks sent a couple that we needed to answer. Can you please let us know how to identify the different types of roads and trails on the app? I'll do my best here. Let me pull the map up again. Give me 1 second to share my screen. So different types of roads and trails. If it's a motorized road and trail, the best thing to do is to click on it or tap on it. This one tells me high clearance 4x4 ATV dirt bike. That tells me it is rough. High clearance 4x4. I might not get my GMC half-ton pickup truck down it. I might need a lift kit, better wheels and tires. Might need a modified 4Runner or Jeep or something like that. Let me find another one. This one here, again, click on it. Overland, probably better for my truck. We also have a bunch of these. They're roads where we don't have as good of data. If you see these dashed lines here. So a double dashed line is what's commonly called a two-track. It's probably a single lane road. This one looks pretty good. It's not maintained like those purple roads are, but it looks like I can probably get my truck down it. Let me see if I can find a single dashed line here. I think if I go north here, there's some. Here's some more. So they're tough to see sometimes, but these double dashed lines there's not a good data set. We don't know if they're open or closed. We're just not able to get that from the data. Some of them will say closed. We have the data that says, yep, this is closed. In Western Montana, these are old logging roads. When they're kind of terraced like this, those were punched in for logging. So a lot of them you can't drive down because they're not maintained. Some of them have gates, some of them don't. I know this probably isn't answering your question, but sometimes the answer is you have to ground truth it. The good thing is, if you're not hunting in a car, I use these roads all the time for hiking along. It's easier to hike on this flat road than on the side hill. Great for grouse hunting, great for packing out meat. They might have vegetation growing on them, but these kind of double dashed lines are going to be probably a bigger road, a wider road, a better, maybe they receive some maintenance, they're traveled more, they're kept open, versus a single dashed line might just be like an old footpath almost. Hope that answers your question. Let's see. What do layers like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Ducks Unlimited do? So the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation layer shows places where Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has done some sort of project, where it's done a habitat improvement, where it's acquired land that they've made public or they've acquired an easement. Similar with Ducks Unlimited, it shows places they've acquired land to make a waterfowl production area or make a wildlife management area, things like that. We've got a Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever layer in there, same thing, showing places where they've done acquisitions or they've done habitat improvement. Let's see. Those are the two questions customer support's passed along to me. We're at almost an hour and a half here. So I want to thank everybody for sticking with us tonight. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know I wasn't able to cover everything. We might not have gotten to everybody's question, but if you do have other questions, if something else pops up, please give us a call or shoot us an email. We're happy to help. And please join us for future classes. And man, it's almost September, folks. Some of you might be hunting already. Some of you might be starting this weekend. I know grouse season opens up on Labor Day for us. I'm going to be out there with my German wire hair and then elk shortly after. So some of you might have to wait. I know a lot of seasons don't start till October in a lot of states. I feel for you, but man, it's about to be here. I'm excited. Hope you are too. One more time, thank you for joining us tonight. Please let us know. There will be a post-class survey. Let us know what you think, and hope everybody has a good evening and hope to see you on a future class.